The Galactic Council's debate had grown heated as the various alien delegates argued over the appropriate course of action regarding a recent series of violent conflicts that had broken out on the periphery of their jurisdiction. Alara, the young human delegate, sat quietly and observed, taking in every nuanced shift in tone and body language. She knew her people were still seen as relative newcomers to the galactic stage, and that the Council often viewed humanity's burgeoning influence with skepticism and unease. As the debate wore on, tempers flared and accusations flew. One Vosian ambassador accused a Xantari counselor of secretly funneling weapons to a militant faction, while a Lumerian representative demanded stricter monitoring of hyperspace lanes to curb piracy. Alara winced inwardly, sensing that a consensus would be difficult to reach. Finally, the Council's presiding Archon called for a vote. Alara leaned forward, her eyes narrowed in concentration, as the delegates cast their ballots. To her dismay, the result was a narrow decision to authorize a covert military operation against the suspected weapons suppliers. The Archon banged his gavel, declaring the matter settled. Alara's heart sank. She knew all too well the devastation that such covert actions could unleash on innocent lives. As the other delegates filed out of the chamber, Alara approached the Archon's dais, determined to voice her concerns. "Honored Archon," she began, trying to keep her tone respectful despite the turmoil within her, "I must register my strongest objection to the Council's decision. The intelligence we have on this matter is tenuous at best. Rushing into a military operation without thoroughly investigating the facts could lead to catastrophic consequences for civilian populations." The Archon regarded her with a mixture of patience and condescension. "Your concerns are noted, young Alara. But the Council has spoken, and we must act decisively to maintain stability in the region. Surely even your people can understand the necessity of such measures." Alara felt her cheeks flush with indignation. "With respect, Archon, my people have seen firsthand the devastation that can result from hasty military actions. I urge you to reconsider. There may yet be diplomatic solutions that could avoid needless bloodshed." The Archon's expression hardened. "The decision has been made. I would advise you to accept it and return to your duties." He turned away, signaling the discussion was over. Alara stood there, her fists clenched in frustration. She knew arguing further would be futile. The Archon and the rest of the Council had made up their minds, but something deep within her refused to be silent. Steeling her resolve, she stepped forward once more. "Archon, please, at least delay the operation until we can fully assess the potential consequences. I beg you, do not condemn innocent lives, Stowe." Her words were cut short as a brilliant flash of energy erupted from the Archon's ornate scepter, striking her squarely in the chest. Alara's body convulsed for a heartbeat before crumpling lifelessly to the floor. Stunned gasps echoed through the chamber as the Archon lowered his smoking scepter, his expression a mask of cold fury. "The decision of the Galactic Council is final," he intoned, his voice laced with menace. "Any further interference will be met with severe consequences. This session is adjourned." As the other delegates hurried from the chamber, Alara's lifeless form lay forgotten on the polished marble floor, her eyes still wide with the shock of her sudden demise. The Archon spared her one final contemptuous glance before sweeping out of the room, already focusing his thoughts on the impending military operation. Little did he know that Alara's sacrifice would soon set in motion a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of the Galactic Council and forever alter the course of human-alien relations across the stars. The news of Alara's death at the hands of the Galactic Council spread like wildfire through the human colonies. Outrage and demands for justice echoed across the human-settled worlds as citizens from all walks of life took to the streets and public forums to voice their fury. On the bustling capital world of Terra, crowds gathered outside the towering headquarters of the Terran High Command, their cries for vengeance resonating through the city's wide avenues. Inside the fortified complex, the ruling Council of Admirals and Generals convened an emergency session, their faces etched with grave concern. "This is an outrage. thundered Admiral Stanislav Petrov, his fist slamming against the polished table. "The Galactic Council has crossed a line by murdering one of our own on their own soil. We cannot allow this act of aggression to go unanswered." Several of the other admirals murmured in agreement, their expressions mirroring Petrov's indignation. But the commanding presence of Fleet Admiral Emilia Vega, the seasoned veteran who chaired the proceedings, quickly restored order. "I share your outrage, Admiral," Vega said, her tone measured and authoritative. "But we must consider our response carefully. The Galactic Council maintains a formidable military presence, and any rash action on our part could ignite a full-scale war that humanity is not yet prepared to wage." Petrov's brow furrowed in defiance. "Then what do you propose we do, Admiral? Allow the Council to continue its oppression of our people without consequence?" Vega raised a hand, silencing him. "Of course not. But we must be strategic in our approach. We have a weapon at our disposal that the Council knows nothing about: our Dormant Armada." A hush fell over the room as the other admirals regarded Vega with newfound interest. The Dormant Armada was the stuff of legend. A vast fleet of advanced warships, their technologies and capabilities long concealed from the alien civilizations that made up the Galactic Council. Its existence was known only to the highest echelons of the Terran High Command. "You propose we activate the Armada?" asked Admiral Xiaolin Chen, her eyes narrowed in contemplation. Vega nodded solemnly. "It is the only way to ensure the Council takes our demands seriously. We will present them with an ultimatum: a public trial of those responsible for Ilara's murder, as well as substantial reparations. If they refuse, we will have no choice but to unleash the full might of our Armada against them." The other admirals exchanged uneasy glances, the gravity of the decision weighing heavily upon them. Petrov, however, leaned forward, a glimmer of triumph in his eyes. "Then let us not waste another moment. The people of Terra, nay, all of humanity, cry out for justice. We must answer their call and show the Galactic Council the true power that lies dormant within our grasp." One by one, the admirals voiced their reluctant agreement, until at last the decision was unanimous. Vega rose from her seat, her expression grim but resolute. "So be it. Issue the activation order to all Dormant Armada units. We shall give the Galactic Council a deadline to comply with our demands. And if they refuse—" She paused, her eyes narrowing. "We will show them the full wrath of a wronged humanity." As the admirals filed out of the chamber, the echoes of their footsteps were soon drowned out by the distant rumble of ancient engines stirring to life. Across the human-controlled systems, the Dormant Armada began to awaken, its vast fleet of warships powering up after centuries of slumber, ready to enforce humanity's will upon the galaxy. The Galactic Council, unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon them, continued their deliberations, blissfully ignorant of the impending confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the interstellar order. The Terran High Command wasted no time in activating the Dormant Armada. Across the human-controlled systems, the call to arms echoed through secured military channels, stirring the ancient vessels to life. On the bridge of the THS Sovereign, flagship of the Armada, Admiral Petrov stood tall and resolute, his weathered features etched with determination. He watched with a mixture of pride and apprehension as the hulking form of the ancient warship came alive, its colossal engines rumbling to power. "Status report," he barked, his gaze sweeping across the bustling command deck. "All systems nominal, Admiral," came the response from the young officer at the helm. "Sublight engines at full capacity. Shields and weapon systems online and standing by." Petrov nodded, his eyes narrowing. "Excellent. Begin launching the rest of the fleet. We must present the Galactic Council with an overwhelming display of force." As the order was relayed, the Sovereign's massive docking bays disgorged a steady stream of sleek, angular warships, their hulls gleaming with centuries-old technology. Across the human-controlled systems, the Dormant Armada stirred to life, its mighty vessels emerging from hidden orbital shipyards and remote asteroid bases. The Galactic Council, convened in their ornate chamber on the capital world of Sendari, was caught completely off guard by the sudden appearance of the human fleet. Delegates from the various alien civilizations exchanged bewildered looks, their demands for explanation met with stony silence from the human representatives. "What is the meaning of this?" bellowed the Archon, his voice booming through the chamber. "Explain yourselves, humans." Admiral Vega, her bearing regal and unyielding, stepped forward, her gaze sweeping across the assembled council. "The meaning, Archon, is simple," she said, her tone dripping with contempt. "This is the price you will pay for the murder of our delegate, Alara. You have until the end of this solar cycle to comply with our demands, or face the wrath of the human Armada." The Archon's eyes widened in shock, his face contorting with fury. "You dare threaten the Galactic Council? This is an act of war, human. We will not." "You will," Vega interrupted, her voice cutting through the Archon's tirade like a razor. "You will comply, or we will reduce your precious capital to ash. The choice is yours." Stunned silence fell over the chamber as the delegates processed the Admiral's ultimatum. The Archon, his fists clenched in impotent rage, fixed Vega with a venomous glare. "This is madness," he spat. "The Galactic Council will not be bullied by your pathetic displays of force. We will not." But his words were drowned out by the thunderous rumble of the human Armada's engines as the fleet began to advance, its massive warships casting long shadows over the panicked delegates below. Vega raised a hand, silencing the Archon with a cold, unyielding stare. "The deadline stands, Archon. I suggest you use the time wisely to consider your next move, for the fate of your precious council hangs in the balance." With that, she turned on her heel and strode from the chamber, leaving behind a stunned and terrified Galactic Council. The delegates, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty, hurriedly convened emergency meetings, their frantic discussions drowned out by the ominous presence of the human Armada looming ever closer. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo through the annals of galactic history, pitting the might of humanity against the established order of the Galactic Council. The outcome, once unthinkable, now hung in the balance as the human Armada stood poised to enact its retribution for the slaying of an innocent youth. The Galactic Council was in a state of utter panic. The sudden and overwhelming appearance of the human Armada had caught them completely off guard, shattering their confidence and disrupting the delicate balance of power that had long defined the interstellar order. In the ornate council chambers, delegates from across the galaxy engaged in frantic debates, their voices rising in a cacophony of demands and accusations. The Archon, his face flushed with rage, pounded his fist on the podium, struggling to restore order. "This is an outrage," he bellowed, his words echoing through the cavernous hall. "The humans have no right to make such outrageous demands of the Galactic Council. We must respond with force, crush their insolence before it spreads." Several of the delegates voiced their agreement, their faces twisted with fear and defiance. But others, more cautious and pragmatic, urged restraint, warning that any hasty action could provoke the might of the human Armada to devastating effect. "We cannot afford to antagonize the humans further," argued the Lumerian ambassador, her voice trembling. "Their fleet outnumbers and outmatches our own. Any military action would be suicidal." The Archon's eyes narrowed to slits, his lips curling into a sneer. "Then what do you propose, Lumerian?" "That we simply surrender to their demands and accept the humiliation of the Galactic Council." The ambassador shook her head, her expression somber. "I am not suggesting surrender, Archon, but we must tread carefully, lest we invite the full wrath of humanity upon us. Perhaps we can negotiate, find a diplomatic solution that." "Negotiate?" The Archon scoffed, cutting her off. "The humans have made their position clear. They demand a public trial and reparations, or it will rain destruction upon us. There is no room for negotiation here." The chamber erupted into renewed clamor as the delegates argued back and forth, their voices rising in a futile attempt to outshout one another. Amid the chaos, a lone Xantari counselor rose, his hand raised in a silent plea for attention. "Honored Archon, esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice calm and measured. "I believe I may have a solution that could satisfy the humans' demands without resorting to war." All eyes turned to the Xantari as he continued, his words carefully chosen. "We cannot ignore the gravity of the situation, nor the power the humans now wield. Their Armada is a formidable force, and they have demonstrated their willingness to use it. We must take their threats seriously." The Archon's brow furrowed in displeasure, but the Xantari pressed on. "However, I propose that we comply with their demands. We will hold a public trial of those responsible for the young human's death, and we will offer substantial reparations to her family and her people. In doing so, we may be able to defuse the situation and avert a costly and destructive conflict." A hush fell over the chamber as the delegates considered the Xantari's words. The Archon, his face a mask of grudging acceptance, finally gave a curt nod. "Very well. We shall accede to the humans' demands for now. But mark my words, Xantari, this is a temporary measure only. The Galactic Council will not forget this affront to our authority, and we shall find a way to regain the upper hand, no matter the cost." With that, the Archon turned and swept from the chamber, the other delegates hastily following in his wake. Outside, the human Armada continued its ominous advance, a silent but powerful reminder of the stakes at play. The Galactic Council, for now, had chosen the path of diplomacy, but the tension in the air was palpable. The confrontation with humanity was far from over, and the future of the interstellar order hung in the balance. The trial of the Galactic Council members accused of Alara's death was broadcast across human space and beyond, drawing millions of viewers who tuned in to witness the historic proceedings. The chamber, once the hallowed halls of the Galactic Council, now served as the stage for an emotional reckoning. Alara's family and close friends took the stand, their testimonies laced with sorrow and outrage. They recounted the young human's boundless enthusiasm, her tireless efforts to bridge the gap between humanity and the alien civilizations, and the devastating impact of her sudden and senseless death. Alara was not just a delegate, her mother, Amara, said through tears. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a beacon of hope for what could be achieved through mutual understanding and cooperation. And she was taken from us, from all of us, by the very institutions that claim to uphold justice and peace in the galaxy. The audience, both human and alien, erupted in thunderous applause, their cries for justice mingling with the anguished sobs of Alara's loved ones. The Galactic Council members, seated in the dock, shifted uncomfortably, their expressions a mixture of guilt and defiance. As the trial progressed, the prosecution presented a meticulously assembled case, drawing upon eyewitness accounts, security footage, and forensic evidence to establish the council's culpability. The Archon, who had ordered Alara's execution, sat stoically, his eyes fixed on a point in the distance as the damning testimony unfolded. When the final witness had been heard, the jury, a panel of both human and alien representatives, retired to deliberate. The tension in the chamber was palpable, the silence broken only by the occasional murmur or sniffle from the audience. After what felt like an eternity, the jury returned, their faces grave. The lead juror, a seasoned Lumerian diplomat, stood and cleared his throat. "In the matter of the death of the human delegate, Alara, we the jury find the accused Galactic Council members, including the Archon, guilty of murder in the first degree." A collective gasp swept through the chamber, quickly followed by a deafening roar of approval from the human contingent. The alien delegates exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions a mix of resignation and barely concealed anger. The Archon, his jaw clenched, rose from his seat, his piercing gaze sweeping across the jubilant crowd. "This verdict is an outrage," he spat, his words dripping with contempt. "The Galactic Council will not be dictated to by a pack of upstart humans. We will not." His tirade was cut short by the thunderous boom of the human Armada's engines, the ominous rumble sending a shiver through the chamber. Outside, the sleek, angular warships hovered menacingly, their weapon systems primed and ready. Admiral Vega, her expression a mask of cold fury, stepped forward, her voice carrying a clear warning. "The verdict stands, Archon. Your council members will be remanded to human custody for sentencing, and substantial reparations will be paid to the human colonies. Failure to comply will result in the complete annihilation of this world and all others under your jurisdiction." The Archon, his face pale with fear, could only nod weakly, his defiance crushed by the overwhelming display of human military might. As the condemned council members were escorted from the chamber, the audience erupted in cheers, their jubilation tinged with a sense of solemn triumph. The human Armada had prevailed, and the Galactic Council, once the unquestioned arbiter of interstellar affairs, had been brought to its knees. But the implications of this momentous victory were far-reaching, and the path ahead was far from certain. Faced with the might of the human Armada and the overwhelming public outcry, the Galactic Council had no choice but to acquiesce to the humans' demands. The conviction of their own members for Ilara's murder had dealt a devastating blow to their credibility and authority, leaving them in a position of profound vulnerability. In the aftermath of the trial, the Archon and his remaining delegates hastily convened emergency negotiations with the human representatives. Desperate to avoid the annihilation of their worlds, they agreed to the terms set forth by Admiral Vega and the Terran High Command. The condemned council members were swiftly handed over to the humans for sentencing, their defiant protests drowned out by the growing demands for retribution from the human colonies. Vast sums of reparations were paid, siphoning resources and political capital from the Galactic Council, further weakening their position. As the final details of the agreement were hammered out, the human Armada maintained its vigilant presence, a silent but powerful reminder of the consequences of defying humanity's will. The Archon, his pride shattered, was forced to publicly acknowledge the Galactic Council's capitulation, his words tinged with bitterness and resentment. "The Galactic Council has agreed to the demands made by the human delegation," he announced, his voice devoid of its usual authoritative tone. "The convicted members will be remanded to human custody, and substantial reparations will be paid to the human colonies. We have no choice but to comply, in the interest of maintaining peace and stability in the galaxy." The announcement was met with a deafening silence from the human contingent, their unwavering gaze conveying a clear message. This was not a victory to be celebrated, but a warning against any future transgressions. As the Galactic Council delegates departed the scene, the human Armada began the process of withdrawing its forces, but not before Admiral Vega issued a stern warning to the Archon. "This is not the end, Archon," she said, her voice laced with a hint of triumph. "The humans have shown the true extent of our power, and we will not hesitate to use it again if our demands are not met. The Galactic Council would do well to remember that." The Archon, his face a mask of begrudging acceptance, could only nod silently, the weight of his defeat evident in his posture. As the human Armada disappeared into the depths of space, the Galactic Council was left to grapple with the aftermath of the confrontation, their authority and credibility severely undermined. Whispers of a growing rift between humanity and the alien civilizations began to circulate as the galaxy struggled to come to terms with the implications of this pivotal event. The humans, having demonstrated their technological and military prowess, found themselves in a position of newfound influence within the galactic community, their voice now commanding a level of respect and deference that had long eluded them. The Galactic Council, once the unquestioned arbiter of interstellar affairs, now faced an uncertain future, its very foundations shaken by the human Armada's decisive intervention. The stage was set for a new era of human-alien relations, one that would test the resilience of the established order and the adaptability of both sides. In the aftermath of the confrontation between the human Armada and the Galactic Council, the political landscape of the galaxy had been forever altered. The once unassailable authority of the Galactic Council had been shaken to its core, its credibility and influence severely undermined. Whispers of a growing rift between humanity and the alien civilizations began to circulate as the various member states grappled with the implications of the humans' decisive victory. The Archon and his remaining delegates found themselves in a precarious position, their once ironclad grip on power now tenuous and fragile. Across the human-settled worlds, a renewed sense of pride and confidence swelled among the populace. The activation of the Dormant Armada and its triumphant display of force had ignited a newfound sense of purpose and determination within the human colonies. No longer were they content to be on the periphery of galactic affairs, their voices and interests dismissed by the Galactic Council. "This is a pivotal moment in our history," declared Terran President Amara Joshi, her words broadcast to the eager masses. "The humans have shown the galaxy that we are a force to be reckoned with, that our values and our aspirations will not be ignored. We stand on the precipice of a new era, one in which humanity will claim its rightful place among the stars." The president's rousing speech was met with thunderous applause and cheers. The people of Terra and the surrounding colonies infused with a renewed sense of purpose and unity. The human armada, its vessels now returning to their hidden bases and shipyards, had become a symbol of their newfound influence and power. But beyond the borders of human-controlled space, the response was far more complex and nuanced. The alien civilizations that made up the Galactic Council found themselves grappling with a profound sense of unease and uncertainty. The humans have upset the delicate balance that has maintained stability in the galaxy for centuries, lamented the Lumerian ambassador, her brow furrowed in concern. Their display of force has shaken the very foundations of our institutions, and I fear the consequences may be far-reaching and irreversible. Other delegates echoed similar sentiments, their concerns amplified by the realization that the humans had managed to conceal the true extent of their technological and military capabilities. The Dormant Armada, once a closely guarded secret, had revealed humanity's potential to challenge the established order, a prospect that filled many of the alien representatives with a growing sense of dread. As the Galactic Council convened emergency meetings to assess the situation and formulate a response, the humans continued to assert their newfound influence, leveraging their position to secure greater representation and a more significant voice in the Council's deliberations. "We are no longer content to be mere observers," declared Admiral Vega, her steely gaze commanding the attention of the alien delegates. "The humans demand a seat at the table, a role in shaping the future of the galaxy, and we will not back down until our rightful place is secured." The Archon, his pride still smarting from the humiliation of the trial and the human armada's intervention, could only nod in begrudging acknowledgement. The balance of power had shifted, and the Galactic Council found itself in the precarious position of having to adapt to the changed circumstances, lest they risk further erosion of their authority and influence. The stage was set for a new era of human-alien relations, one that would test the resilience of the established order and the adaptability of both sides. The implications of the confrontation were far-reaching, and the ultimate outcome remained uncertain, as the galaxy braced itself for the ripples of change that had been set in motion. As the dust settled from the confrontation between the human armada and the Galactic Council, the galaxy found itself in uncharted territory. The once unassailable authority of the Galactic Council had been shaken to its core, its credibility and influence severely undermined by the events that had unfolded. The human colonies, empowered by the demonstration of their dormant armada's might, now found themselves in a position of newfound influence within the galactic community. Their demands for greater representation and a more significant voice in the Council's deliberations were met with a mixture of grudging acceptance and thinly veiled resentment from the alien delegates. Admiral Vega, her steely gaze unwavering, continued to press the human agenda, leveraging the Terran High Command's leverage to secure concessions and reforms from the Galactic Council. The Archon, his pride still smarting from the humiliation of the trial and the human armada's intervention, found himself in the precarious position of having to adapt to the changed circumstances or risk further erosion of the Council's authority. The humans have upset the delicate balance that has maintained stability in the galaxy for centuries, lamented the Lumerian ambassador, her brow furrowed in concern. Their display of force has shaken the very foundations of our institutions, and I fear the consequences may be far-reaching and irreversible. Other delegates echoed similar sentiments, their concerns amplified by the realization that the humans had managed to conceal the true extent of their technological and military capabilities. The Dormant Armada, once a closely guarded secret, had revealed humanity's potential to challenge the established order, a prospect that filled many of the alien representatives with a growing sense of dread. In the human-settled worlds, a renewed sense of pride and confidence dwelled among the populace. The activation of the Dormant Armada and its triumphant display of force had ignited a newfound sense of purpose and determination within the colonies. No longer were they content to be on the periphery of galactic affairs, their voices and interests dismissed by the Galactic Council. "This is a pivotal moment in our history," declared Terran President Amara Joshi, her words broadcast to the eager masses. "The humans have shown the galaxy that we are a force to be reckoned with, that our values and our aspirations will not be ignored. We stand on the precipice of a new era, one in which humanity will claim its rightful place among the stars." As the human armada maintained its vigilant presence, a stabilizing force in the galaxy, the Galactic Council found itself in a delicate balancing act. Recognizing the need to accommodate the growing human influence, the Council began to implement reforms, granting the humans greater representation and a more significant role in the decision-making process. Yet, even as these changes unfolded, the underlying tensions and resentments simmered beneath the surface. The alien delegates, while outwardly complying with the new order, harbored a deep sense of unease and uncertainty about the implications of the humans' newfound power. The incident had become a pivotal moment in the shaping of human-alien relations, setting the stage for future challenges and opportunities. The galaxy, once firmly under the Galactic Council's control, now found itself in a state of flux, with the humans poised to play a more prominent role in determining its destiny. As the human armada continued its vigilant patrol, a constant reminder of the consequences of underestimating humanity's determination and capabilities, the Galactic Council found itself at a crossroads. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but one thing was clear: the balance of power had shifted, and the galaxy would never be the same.